Okay, welcome everyone to this session on Power Platform Governance. I'm myself, Frank Vanhamel. I'm a strategy consultant on the Power Platform. And for today, a special guest with Harald. Welcome, Harald.
Thank you, Frank.
Can you present yourself?
Yes, my name is Harald Wentein. I work at Microsoft and I'm the Power Platform lead for Microsoft Western Europe. So all Power Platform related questions around sales, marketing, partner, customers, they actually they go through me.
Okay. So for today, let's talk a bit about governance, on the governance approach on the Power Platform, which is, we think, needed
It is.
today.
Yep.
And yeah, what we try to do at Wortell is that, and you see also the little slide there, is being as a sort of a timeline. And so we try to be in more the strategic phase at customers and not directly going to implementation. Why? Because Power Platform is really about how will you adapt to it, how will you have it internally in a strategic way. So as you see the timeline at the end, okay, we will go together with sort of technology implementation, but let's have a first step up front and talk about strategy in that case. Yep. Sounds good for you, strategy?
Sounds good.
Yeah?
Sounds good.
Okay, so yeah, when facing the app gap challenge, Harald, can you talk about a bit this slide?
Yep. So there's a reason why Microsoft is investing in our low-code platform, which is called the Power Platform, and it's mainly because of the reason that's on the slide. Is there's a huge gap between the volume of applications and automations that solutions that customers need and what they can actually build themselves. Okay. This was brought to us by analysts, but in the next 5 years, we expect customers globally to have a need for over 500 million applications, which is the same as what we've built in the previous 40 years. Yeah. But that's the starting point, and that's why we have a low-code platform, so we can build these solutions at scale, at speed, with our customers.
Okay. And yeah, when everyone is talking about citizen developers, is it just one profile that we see, or do you see a mix with different profiles?
It's definitely a mix. But the thing is that there's a reason why there's a gap. And the gap is there because there's not enough people to build those applications. And that's why we have low code, because people without IT skills can start to build these applications. Okay. So it means that everybody in an organization can become a developer. Okay. Well, like what you said, a citizen developer. So me, for example, I did not study IT. I don't know how to code in .NET or C#. But I'm still able to build applications or bots or dashboards through low code. But
still, when facing the gap, we still need, there's still a war for talent.
Yes.
Also.
Yep. And I think if you go to the next slide and you look at the next slide, today there's a way of filling in that gap. And the first step, and that's what usually happens for large processes which are common across the world, is what can we already buy that's already there. And that's what we call off-the-shelf solutions. And within Microsoft, that's definitely the Dynamics 365 suite, where we talk about sales and marketing and finance and operations and customer service. It's in the cloud, so you can kind of buy the license, you can log in, and you can start to use it. That's the one way of looking at it. The second way is actually building solutions, and that's where we typically have pro developers who take a need and build an application from scratch, which we call custom development. It works because it's 100% fitting, but there's a few risks. I think time. It usually takes a long time before you can build or really build a custom developed app. So that's one very crucial thing. You won't fill the gap with that. Secondly, it's the cost. And thirdly, it's what I call upgradability or future-proofness of that solution. When you look at solutions built 5 or 10 years ago, are they ready for the cloud? Are they ready for artificial intelligence? Are they ready for mixed reality or Kubernetes or IoT?
You see it happen now, and it's really there.
Yeah. Those technologies 5 years ago or 10 years ago were like, wow. But we're living it today, and those applications can't follow. Okay. So what we see is that business and IT use a platform, a common platform, low-code platform, to actually fill in every dot on that slide. Every white block is a solution that an organization might need. So how do we enable an organization to fill in that gap? themselves.
And is it possible as a customer or a client that I can combine the, let's say, the SaaS solution out of the box with custom development? Is that a solution or a way to go?
So yes and no. So of course you can combine anything because within the platform you've got connectors and you can connect to applications. But I would say is that when you do build your applications and you build them on one platform where you've got one data layer that actually supports that, where you've got your identity management, where you've got your security, where you've got your collaboration within that one suite, it makes it easier also within your governance because you support one platform instead of 20 platforms. So yes, it's possible, although that I would not always recommend to do too many different approaches in your application development.
But I think what is clear in this case is that we have the data layer, and data has always been also a strategy component. That data is key in all this governance of platform.
Yes, and I think even though that I'm kind of selling the Power Platform, the one thing that makes the Power Platform powerful is data.
Okay.
The application you build or the automation you do is the shell around the data that is flowing through your organization. And
it's more like a user interface.
It's a user interface for bringing your data to the person that needs it. Okay. So having that data strategy as part of your governance model, as in what's my data, where do I want my data to go, how do I secure it, how do I remain compliant, am I GDPR compliant? Yes. It's crucial. Otherwise, you'll still have shadow IT, which is something we definitely want to avoid.
Okay. Yeah, and then you also have the problem that someone is putting data on a Twitter, some internal data, and that's what you want to prevent. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and when we look at the different challenges of organizations, so let's put on the slide first. What I see is that it's also technology bringing a sort of empowerment to the employees, and that people doing repetitive tasks, they want to do other tasks, more added value tasks for the companies or organizations. So do you see also that technology is helping in this empowerment?
100%. So I think technology does give the power to every individual to achieve more, to quote our big chief. But at the same time, that's also the worry for IT, because when they think, oh my God, every person is now starting to build apps, how am I going to manage that? And that's usually when we see that the IT department are the one who puts on the brake.
Yes.
They're like, oh, stop.
Hold on. Yeah.
Because, and they don't want to be the one having to fix the problems, but by putting on the brakes, they're actually becoming the blocker. So business is kind of often angry at IT for blocking the ideas that they have. And that's what we want to avoid or bypass or remove by giving power to IT to govern that citizen developer, that application platform.
So it's a bit giving the freedom to the citizen developers or pro developers and having a good feeling for IT management that they can manage it all by having a good, I would say, governance approach.
I would say it's like a from zero to hero.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then that's what we also see at customers is that you have some business undercurrent flowing there and really pushing IT to be more productive, more empowered, and that business is really pushing IT to move further with the platform.
Yep, and I think that app gap is there because it's the business who have a need. It's not because IT have a need. IT have some needs, but it's mainly the business who say, hey, I need to talk to my customer better. I need to collaborate with my peers better. I need to change the way my operations work. And if all of those questions come at IT and they don't have enough staff, they're just overwhelmed and they will say stop. Okay. So yes, it's the business asking, but through low code, you can actually put part of that responsibility back at the business to say, great, we want to support you. Here are the tools so you can actually help us develop the solution that you need.
So we could say that business is sort of first line support, and then partner and customers and IT is coming in a second level together. Yep. Okay. Okay. So why should customers think about the governance aspect on the Power Platform?
It's a large question. I'll try to summarize. I think number one for me, and I think definitely in the current day, is data. How do you manage data? How do you make sure that you remain GDPR compliant? How do you make sure your data stays within your organization when it needs to stay in your organization? It's great that we can post everything on Twitter and in an Excel file, but you want to have control over your data. It's what makes your company tick today, and it's data on your customers, data on your suppliers. So data is number one, and that's for me the most important one to start from. The second one is the people in your organization. If half of your organization has issues with processes that are not going well and so on, they will leave your organization because they're unhappy, things go wrong. So if you can give them that platform in which you've got digitization, automation, where people can focus on what they need to do, which is quality and revenue and the things that actually make sense, it's easier to actually keep the employees or to keep them happy. And through governance, that's what you can offer them, is that, yes, you can build all the solutions you want. We're going to make sure they're recognizable by everybody. They've got a good user interface. They connect to the data you need. Here are the tools that you need to do the best in your job. I think that's definitely number two.
Okay. So we could say that the governance is more like, as we see it in Wortell, more like a multidimensional approach, being on technology, people, and processes. And not just implementing your Microsoft Center of Excellence kit.
No, I think governance it's a concept. It's not that it's a concept, and technology is a part of it. But governance means it's a complete company approach to how do we deal with digital transformation, data application, and how do we manage that.
Okay. So let's have a look at some solutions and our approach on the governance on the Power Platform. We aligned also on the, I would say, the Microsoft vision on having three phases in it. And we have a sort of envisioning, onboarding, and scaling. So what we try to do is first get a clear view on how would you implement Power Platform on a strategy level. Think about resistance management, think about success criteria, and how are you communicating towards the business. I think that's also crucial, top down and bottom up, that you have a clear view on what is our approach internally on the Power Platform.
Yep, and I think it's important. And there's one word I would love to, actually two words that I would love to take from this slide, specifically on the envision part, is strategy and vision. We call it the Power Platform. And it's good if people build one app, but we think that if you think about it, there's a lot of automations and applications that you could build. And if you have a vision and a strategy as an organization, as in, what's my data? What do I want to do in the next 5 to 10 years? And what's the role of technology? You will have a very different approach to governance versus let's build one app. Okay. So having a good vision and strategy and having a good partner that can help you build that vision and strategy, I think it's crucial, but it will definitely help you to accelerate that transformation digitally. Okay.
And it's a bit putting the star at the end, at the horizon, knowing where you're going at, and having some, would say, digital roadmap to see what you want to do as a customer and what you don't want to do on the Power Platform.
Yeah, and also I think that I'm now talking for Wortell, but also for the customer, is that if you look at it as a platform and as a strategy, it means that the partner you work with becomes a strategic alliance. It becomes a strategic partner that helps you in your future goals, setting that star. If you only look at it as a let's build an app and find a partner, let's build an app and find a partner, you don't have that strategy, that common goal to actually get to the future. So I think it's crucial, if you really want to have that digital transformation, to think about the big picture and not only about the single components. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do at Wortell, is not just being an implementation partner, but really going together hand in hand with the customer and talking about, what's the vision and the strategy on the platform. So what we did at Wortell, we combined the three phases. We've put it in a sort of a methodology. We call it a sprint methodology, and for each letter in the word. So in the S phase, we really talk about the strategy, and together with IT, together with the management, we come to a sort of a strategy report. In which, in the planning phase, we are really talking about the citizen developer, the pro developers, and really also doing the communication. And I think that's key, is that as a citizen developer, you have to know the why. Why are we investing as a company in the Power Platform? Yeah. We also have some readiness phase in which we are looking at your environment, so the environment of the customers on the Power Platform then, and really doing some recommendations. And what we see on, okay, how is your data strategy? Do you have some data loss prevention installed, yes or no? So it's really a sort of as-is assessment, yeah, in which we do, I would say, the needed recommendations. Yeah. And then you talked about, okay, we had some, there has to be some guidelining for the developers, that they know, okay, within those boundaries we can develop. So that's what we try to do, is we've put in a sort of procedure for a citizen development procedure, that they know, okay, this is my playground, and in this I can do some trial on automates or building applications. Do you also see the need on those boundaries, setting the boundaries?
It's always kind of it's kind of finding it's finding the balance. A lot depends on your community. If you limit too much from the beginning, people will kind of hit the boundary fast, and they will say like, never mind. Yeah. If it's too open, it might become too complex, and then they will give up. So finding that balance between giving them enough freedom to try and test, and through skilling, through training, through talking to peers, and then IT setting the boundaries on data and so on. I think it's really important. But I think the most important lesson is there needs to be some freedom. Yeah. Because the Power Platform is also about creativity. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And if you limit creativity, you also limit the platform from the start. Yeah, so, yes, boundaries, but the biggest lesson is don't put them too tight.
Okay, so a good balance between both. Yeah, yeah. And what we try to do in the sprint on the governance on the Power Platform is also pointing out to the people dimension. So not just implementing the technology like the Center of Excellence kit, but also really working with people, because I think it's a sort of maturity journey that they have to go within the Power Platform, and it's not from day 1 to day 2 that you have a great skilling.
And I think people are your biggest asset. I think next to the data, people are your biggest asset. Because what is it that you usually try to do with the Power Platform is you try to optimize processes or automate data entry or automate things. The only truth is that people know how to do this. Yeah. And they know what they're doing on a daily basis, and they know where things are going wrong. So if you can't engage with those people, you will always be kind of running a little bit behind. So I really love that you're saying people are our biggest focus, because they're the ones who have kind of the magic in their hands, and who can tell you this is wrong, this is right, this is where we can optimize. And they're also the ones who can tell you what the value will be, because they're the ones who will have to use it in the end.
They will do it day to day, and
exactly.
And that's their expertise. Yeah. Okay. So can we summarize this, that we have the business, we have IT, and we have a partner like Wortell really going hand in hand on the Power Platform? Is that
yes?
A nice image?
I would say there's even a fourth one, which are the pro developers. Right, a lot of organizations still have 1 or 2 or 3 people who only develop. Some large organizations might have 100 or 50, I don't know. But they also can benefit from that platform, because if they can use this platform to connect to the business, to get input, to get feedback, to get those processes in, you can build amazing things.
And do you see the pro developers more like building components within the platform, and then I would say giving the components to the citizen developers?
I would say you could say that. Yeah, it's like a Lego box. Yeah. If you have a box, and that's our platform, but in a way you still have to fill that box with components like data connectors or UX components or things that are repeatable that people can use. And pro developers, instead of building the entire thing, they can actually build the blocks that other people can use, so that you can build faster, but still in a way that is qualitative according to those developers.
Okay. So there's certainly a role also for the pro developers.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay. Yeah, we had some nice customer case at customer PCG in Belgium. So, and I think the title says it all, is that it's not just about IT and implementation, it's about people, and talk to the people, talk to the business, and feel what's happening on the floor. I think that's crucial.
And I think, and the floor can be large. I think when we talked a little bit, it can also be our customers, because the customers are the end, and I don't mean our customers, but the customers of our customers. They're the end product or the end station of a lot of the processes that an organization works on. So in some cases, you can actually combine their knowledge of processes in that process. And I'll give you a quick example of Belgian Railroads, who did a hackathon last year with 130 students.
Okay.
And a lot of those students, they take the train every day. So they, based on their experience, they could kind of say, hey, maybe you can optimize this, or you can change this. And that's what's possible with the platform, that the technology is there, but actually if you have the right input from people, like that customer and like your approach, that's when you will have the biggest successes.
And that's also the approach we have, is that when building together with the customer in a sort of Scrum Agile way, is that, we are building an application, also take the customer touch points and feedback, so that you really have an application that also works, and it's also having some great experience for end customers. Okay. Yeah, and I see something crawling there, someone walking and then running. Building capacity on the people.
So one of the things I said in the beginning is that there's an app gap, and one of the reasons is we don't have enough people to actually build those applications. So through citizen development and fusion development, we want to combine people with IT skills and people without IT skills to build these applications together. So crucial in this is, how do you train those people? And Microsoft is investing a lot in training our partners, training our customers directly. We've got this platform, learn.microsoft.com, where you can kind of learn about all of our technologies, including Power Platform. But then that's the initial start, right? That's where you kind of understand what's the Power Platform, how can I use it, what are the components. But the next step is then, how do I start to build? And that's where we work, for example, with Wortell, where we say, hey, you know what? You can come to a session, let's build an app together. And it's a very basic app.
It's like in a day sessions.
It's in a day, yes. And it's all about experiencing how easy it actually can be. And then once you got a hang of that, I mean, then you start to do more. That's then the step one, as in let's start to build. But then even when you go further, the platform can be used for so many things, so training actually never stops. And you can't expect to start with the running.
No.
You need to start with the basics and kind of go step by step. And I think, I mean, it's, whenever I talk to a partner or a customer, I always point out to the fact that, look, from the beginning to the end, you will need to train people.
Okay. And do you also see that I would say, people or citizen development building apps, is that they also do some community training?
It's the strongest way of learning. Of course, I can go to a website and learn how to do this, but if you can do this with your colleague who sits next to you, if you can see what they have done, so building a community where people share ideas, where people share their winnings, as in, hey, I built this app, it's
some
really
gamification,
cool. Yes. I mean, that works. We talked about it. So when my first app that I built myself, it was very personal. It was kind of to learn a little bit more. I built an app to kind of manage my small whiskey collection, just to, like, how do I import an image and how much do I have? And I mean, it was just for fun. But when you build it, you're proud and you want to share with it. And if you can do that within your organization and that community, I mean, it's fun, because then people will be, well, inspired. They will start to build, and then they can ask questions. How did you do this? And I think that's part of that always on learning. Okay. So
and you also have the business flow in it, and that when building and talking to colleagues, you talk about the same business language.
And also, I mean, a lot of people might do the same process, but might do the same thing, but every process they use might be a little bit different. So by talking to each other, you can take the best parts and optimize.
Combine it.
And then you save money, you can focus on quality and not on data entry and on things that take a lot of time. But it only works through communication, training, collaboration, and that's what we really, really try to enable. And
it's really
and you guys as well. Yes.
Okay. And I'm interested in the solution of the whiskey. So I have some gin at home, so perhaps I can tweak it a bit. Yeah, and this slide is some, I would say, some assessment report. What we did at the customer is that, okay, we look at the environment on Power Apps, on the platform, and then we do some recommendations. And then you also have a good view on what is my as-is situation and how can I go further on the technology side.
Because besides training, I think the governance is also a kind of a journey. I mean,
correct.
You start and then you learn and you adjust and you learn and you adjust. Even at Microsoft, I mean, our entire governance strategy, I think every year something changes because the organization changes, the way people use the technology changes, the technology itself changes. So it's an always-on process, but it delivers a lot of energy and value. And
it keeps on being dynamically and then adapting to it. It's
exactly.
It's the way we live today. Okay, and then we have some image about the Center of Excellence kit for customers who don't have a view on this. It's really, and I also imported it in my tenant. You have some different solutions, and it's really a broad kit, but not. It's just a starting point. It's not done.
No, and I think Center of Excellence, like you said as well, it's a lot of things. It's training, it's community building, but there's also a component that is technology. And in this case, it's something that Microsoft offers, and it's the Center of Excellence toolkit, which of course I would definitely do with a partner. But it gives you insights on who's using what, how does my platform look like, how many apps do I have, who's the user, who built it, what is still in development phase. So it gives you insights in what's happening. But it's a starting point. And from there, by getting insights, it's easier to define your next steps.
And it's also a way that you can identify your business champions. You could say in the beginning, okay, those are my champions, but when going further in the journey, some other people, and with the gamification, go on place 1 and 2 or 3. And so it's really also about who are the ambassadors in our company. And this nice slider, it's about the champions. I also talk about culture. Is it also that sort of a learning culture that you have to establish?
I think a couple of years ago, our CEO, Satya, talked about lifelong learning. And I believe it's something that every organization is now striving towards. Because the world is changing, technology is changing, there's a huge mind shift in. Just look at the last 2 years. Before COVID, nobody worked from home. Now nobody wants to go back to the office. But it has an impact on a lot of things, and we need to learn to adjust. So learning through trainings, but learning from each other, learning from technology is key, I think, for the future of every employee, every employer. Building that community of learners, of people who want to
get
share
some feedback from each other.
Exactly.
And I also believe that it has to be a sort of part of the day, and that within a day you learn a lot, and you go to blog sites, you do this, you check on Google, Google best friend also sometimes. But it's really creating a culture also in the learning aspect.
But I also think that organizations need to understand the value that can come from it. When I look at some of our earliest adopters of the Power Platform, and I'll take Samit from Heathrow Airport.
Okay.
He was a security guard. And he had to open this book, which was called the Book of Languages, in which everything was described what people could not take on an airplane.
Okay.
And he was so tired of taking that 700-page book, and they had to reprint it every month because something changed. So at night, he said, let's do some investigation. He learned about Power Apps. He built an app where that entire book became digital. I think they save a couple of thousand pages per year for that one book. He's now leading the low-code application development at Heathrow. But it starts with him wanting to learn. And that's what we kind of try to enable through
nice
the
example.
Power Platform.
Okay, so one on the slide here is one component of the Center of Excellence kit. You might know, a scoring assessment app. It's not about just as an IT manager having all the scenarios centralized. It's also about those scenarios, what is the value of it, and how can we, with a sort of minimum of effort, can we implement a certain scenario and bring the added value to it.
Yep. And I think value is key here. I mean, when I talk to a customer, I can often quite quickly find 20, 30, 50, 100 use cases of this might be possible. But where to start? Mm-hmm. And that's where putting a value on it becomes important. And you mentioned it with the adoption framework, as in, what are your indicators of success? Yeah. And that could be time saved. That could be dollars saved. It could be customer satisfaction goes up. There's a lot of indicators of success. If you know what your success factors are and you map them to those apps, then you can put a value on it. And then it's quite easy to go to your management and say, hey, I would love to hire an additional resource to help me manage this, because this is the value that we can bring.
Based on the return on investment.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and quite interesting also, not really just about, I would say, the Power App which is behind it, is also about what could be the impact, not just for myself, but perhaps on a team level or across team level. So it's sort of a multiplicator effect when you have an application or a scenario, and then having more than an impact than pure on personal level.
And I think that's also linked to that value, is that often we think about a process as, how does it work for me? But if different people from different parts of the business say, hey, I've got this issue, and you look at the big picture, actually there might be a whole lot of value versus just for Frank or just for Harald. Okay. But actually, if 20 people have the same issue and we can fix it through an automation or application, maybe we save 2 weeks of time, correct, which has a euro value, which has a people value as well.
Yeah, and when we implement it at the customer, it's also about, it gives also a good view on the data strategy, because you have the scenario, you have the little blocks combining, and then you could say, okay, this is interesting as an IT management perspective, is that, okay, these scenarios are covering a lot of components or Lego blocks, let's say, and how can we adapt our data strategy to it?
And I think we started with data, and I think it's the same thing. It's like you can look at every app individually, but when you think about what does that app really do for me and my organization, well, actually, it takes data from one place to another. If you can then build insights out of that data, you can optimize the way your organization work. Again, there's a value to that. Yeah. But if all of your data is in individual silos, it's very hard to do. So having that data strategy, that structure, I mean, it's key. And I think that's where you as an expert can actually help guide the customer to maybe think about this, think about data that, because it is the one thing that drives everything. It's that data underneath.
And what I found interesting, it's a bit aside, but it's a process advisor from Microsoft also, is that you could have a same process done by, I would say, 3 end users, and perhaps one end user is more efficient doing the same process from A to Z, and having some 30 seconds or I would say 30 minutes gain in efficiency. And so I think it's also a good way not to pinpoint to people, but also why is this person do it more efficiently, and at the end you have your result in the process.
And I think that's where technology supports people. I think it brings it back to people. But also then, if you link it then to training, you can use that information that comes from technology to train people to be more efficient. Yeah. And I think specifically in people with a lot of data entry, if you can take away 5 minutes per day, 300 days per year, 5 years, you can save them so much time, even though they're only marginal gains. And that's what people like, because then it means they can focus on something that actually brings even more value. Yeah. And that's what we try to achieve.
Okay. So a simple app, Power App, but having multiple, I would say, added values. Okay, solution sets. At Wortell, we also have some, I would say, out-of-the-box Lego boxes, if I could say it like this. One example is this business scenario. So it's about HR applicant tracking system. I call it an onboarding system. On HR, positions has to be created, but what I want to tell is that it's really about the platform thinking. It's not about let's build a nice model-driven app or a nice Canvas app. When you can combine different Lego blocks, you really have, I would say, a really strong platform in solving a business challenge.
Yep, and I think there's 2 things I would like to comment. One is I really like the fact that, look, this is HR and you already have 5-6 solutions that are built on that one platform. But imagine you do this with every division in your organization: sales, marketing, finance. If every division has 5 solutions that they need, you already have 30.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's where you need that governance. I think that's definitely number one. And number two, and it's coming back to that slide with the out-of-the-box solutions, is when you can then connect all of those applications to your core systems, that's when you can add that value, that you don't need to build everything from scratch. A lot of the solutions you already have around paychecks and so on. I'll give an example. In Microsoft, everybody in the organization, we're 160, 70,000 people. We use a Power App to ask for vacation. Of course, that app is linked to our core data around payout and paycheck and so on. But it's a simple app. Everybody uses it. It's very agile, quick, but it still connects to that data. And that's one example of how one app can make a huge impact in the organization. But imagine then onboarding, recruitment, trainings, and so on.
So when going cross-team, taking a process from A to Z, then you have really can do some wonderful things. Okay. Yeah, and I didn't have the slide here, but we also have a sort of AI. And so everyone is thinking AI. It's a bit far from thinking, but it's really there. And I think about invoicing, scanning a document, pulling out the data through OCR or an AI service on Azure, and giving the data back to, let's say, let's have the word RPA. But yeah, then you really have the aha that, I can do other things than being there and every day entering some invoices.
I think that, I mean, most of the people that are in an organization today, they grew up at least the last 20 years with a computer, and they all have some tech skills. Some people in finance are super good in Excel skills. Well, actually, that language you can use to build applications. We sometimes underestimate what people can do because we're afraid to make mistakes. Well, actually, that's what this can help with. There's a lot of HR people who want to optimize processes for the people. There's a lot of finance people who want to optimize processes on getting reports, automating reports, having an app to do audits, and so on. So there are opportunities everywhere in the organization, across those business units, that have a value for everyone. And the example you give on AI, there's actually a low-code AI builder that you can use where you don't need data science skills to do that AI integration. So it is really something that enables everybody. And if you then have that good structure of governance that surrounds that, or that kind of runs in parallel, then IT is happy.
Is a hero.
They're the hero because they allow everybody to do almost what they want. And the business is happy because they can solve solutions that they really need today.
Yeah. And what I see also happening in at customers is that you also have the consumption module, is that you could say, okay, we have an AI model with a consumption of, I would say, 500 documents per month. So that consumption-based thinking is also being part of the platform, or
I think that's,
how do you see it?
For that's more of an IT, I would say, approach. Yeah. As a business user, you just want the solution. And I think that's what we want to offer. But in a way, you consume services. And that's how IT and Microsoft and partners think, as in how you consume the possibility of doing things. Yeah. And the business, in a way, they shouldn't really care about the technology. That's why the governance model is there. They can just find the solution they need to. Okay. And they consume solutions. Yeah.
But the point what I wanted to make is that you could also manage your own little AI model besides of the consumption. Yep. Is that, okay, we have our own customer AI model and you can tweak it also how you want it.
Yep. I think that's the fun part with AI, is that it's artificial, but it's intelligent and it's built around what you do. So the more you use it, the smarter it gets. So
So it's having all the Lego blocks combined and then having a really nice solution. And playing with the child.
While having a gin or a whiskey in the
Cheers. So a bit wrapping the session up, as the added values that we see is that, and I will take the first point, is that what we try to do is you have the Power Platform, you have your organization goals, and really try to align them so that when implementing applications, it's really, I would say, 100% aligned with where you want to go with as an organization. And do you also see that, I would say, giving knowledge to the customers is also being more agile, or how do you see it at customers?
I think every customer should be seeking for knowledge, whether it's on technology, whether it's on customers. So I think that through this platform, we've got technology enabling or helping customers to enable themselves in processes, in data, getting more data. So, I mean, for me, it's the biggest added value is to give them knowledge, to give them data, to give them insights. And depending on who you are, that will be different. For IT, that will be insights on who's using it, knowing what happens. For business users, it's getting access to data that you didn't have before through applications and automations. And for the end user or for the customer even, it's about how do I get access to data that's relevant for me faster. So giving that knowledge doesn't need to be limited to the organization. It actually can go to the customers of that organization.
Okay. And helping and the agility of people when giving them the training, the community building, it's also having a positive impact on the acceleration of the platform, let's say the adoption of it?
Definitely. And I think the best example I can give is unfortunately based on COVID. Mm-hmm. I think 2 years ago, March 13th in Belgium, everything got locked down. And all of a sudden, every organization in Belgium had an issue because how can I get my work done with people not being in the office? So a lot of solutions were built within weeks to actually solve for that issue. Allowing people to go to the office in a limited amount, but booking a seat and so on. But that agility of that speed is what customers are looking for. I mean, the Suez Canal was blocked. My supply chain is broken. How do I fix this? Well, I need to do this and this. Sometimes it's a big investment, finding a new plan to build stuff. Sometimes it's how can I get more insights on delivery times and what's happening behind it. So
sometimes it could be a little application and solving a great problem or a big problem.
Yes. That's the fun part of the platform. Simple and big, complex, small, but all of them can have should have a value that gives that ROI.
And that's a bit sometimes the problems as a consultant. We try to make it a lot complexity. So, keep it simple and short, let's say. And what we try to do as a last point here is the time to value. We want to shorten this because we have the Lego boxes and we don't want to, I would say, give the solution set, but really shorten the time to value. That as a customer, you can build on top with your own Lego blocks.
And to add to that is, going back to the beginning, it's about how do you get that volume. If you don't have that speed, agility, you won't bridge that gap in your organization of all the apps you need. So thinking about the value as a platform versus as an app, individual app, I think that's the biggest added value I could offer as Microsoft, as in think about the big picture. Think about it as a platform. Think about it as 10, 20, 50, 100 solutions. And of course you don't start with 100, but build that plan, look at that envision roadmap as in what do I need, that assessment of apps or solutions or processes that you need to fix. When you look at it from a platform point of view, you can build that digital roadmap as you called it, kind of put the value on it, put an ROI on it, and invest in your future as an organization.
And then having it combined with a good governance approach, then you have the good boundaries and then having citizen developers building on top of it.
And then as an IT department, and I think I said it before, you can become the hero from zero to hero, not by blocking people or trying to do everything yourself, but actually by enabling people to do it and by giving them the governance around it, where you change your way of working, but actually you enable your entire business versus being seen as the blocker. And I think that's the value that can definitely be there for IT.
So it's really about going hand in hand, IT and business, and going towards, I would say, the same goals. So a small call to action for the customers is that, we have the timelining, we have the different components, we have the envisioning, we have discovery, we have perhaps in a day sessions to really go building your first app and going home really proud on that. Some pilot case, and when being more, I would say, more scenarios cross team, more on productivity on team scenarios, is that we have the Sprint Optimized Pro as a methodology, building together Scrum Agile way, and then coming to in Scrum terminology, let's say it in a nice increment of done. So we are proud on what we are building together. Yeah. So some last slide. First of all, thank you for being here.
Thanks for
Harald.
having me.
And I would say some call to action for you as a customer.